Have you ever felt the world remember something long after everything else forgot? Welcome to Unearthed Secrets, where silent stones and distant winds still carry their own hidden stories. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and tell us where and what time you're watching from. Now let us walk the quiet paths where echoes, light, and ancient breath still wait beneath the earth. The pillar that held the last echo. The Kazakh steppe wakes without sound. No birdsong, no rustle of leaves, no whisper of river. Just wind, slow, patient, rising gently from the distant horizon like the breath of something vast and dreaming. You stand alone in that endless openness, where the land stretches in every direction in shades of faded gold and pale green. The air is cool enough to sting your lungs at first inhale, but it carries a clarity that calms the entire body. Each breath feels unburdened, lifted, carried by the wind the same way voices once drifted across these plains. The sky widens above you, so open and unmarred that it feels more like a shallow sea turned upside down. Thin clouds drift in slow herds overhead, their shadows gliding across the earth like long-forgotten memories. Somewhere ahead, past the rolling dunes and the lone silhouettes of thorny shrubs, waits the monolith. The elders whisper about, the pillar that held the last echo. You begin walking. The ground is flat for long stretches, then dips into shallow folds carved by centuries of wind. Pebbles scatter beneath your boots. The dry stalks of feathergrass brush lightly against your legs in soft, rhythmic sways, their movements barely audible. The steppe's silence is not empty, it is deliberate, a silence shaped by time and distance. You press onward, the horizon never seeming to grow closer. But then, a shape appears, tall, thin, straight, a solitary vertical line against the soft curves of the land, too smooth to be natural, too alone to be accidental. The pillar. You slow your pace as you approach. The wind calms suddenly, folding itself into the land instead of moving across it. The air feels denser, almost hushed, as though every sound that tries to form is swallowed softly by the steppe. The pillar rises from a slight depression in the earth, a hollow that seems carved not by water or wind, but by presence. You reach the edge. The sentinel stands before you, a tall column of pale limestone, weathered yet impossibly smooth, shaped by hands or forces unknown. Its surface ripples in long vertical striations, giving the impression of fabric carved into stone, like the frozen fold of a robe or a banner caught in wind. At its base, the ground is bare. No grass, no shrubs, no stones, just earth, flattened into a near-perfect circle as though countless footsteps once moved around it in ritual or waiting. You step closer. The pillar hums, not with sound, with vibration. A soft tremor rises through the soles of your boots, up your legs, settling faintly in your chest. It reminds you of distant thunder, the way storms announce themselves before they're seen. You place your hand on the stone, warmth, deep, slow, ancient warmth, as if stored in the pillar for centuries, waiting for someone to feel it. The surface is smoother than expected, almost polished. The striations are shallow, their patterns guiding your fingers upward. You follow the lines until your hand reaches a shallow hollow, carved into the stone roughly at shoulder height. The hollow is oval-shaped, perfectly smooth inside, barely the size of a human palm. You place your hand inside it. The warmth deepens. A soft vibration rises, not random, not constant, rhythmic, like an echo. You close your eyes. The rhythm shifts, deepens, lengthens, repeats. It feels like a voice trying to reach you through stone, not speaking words, just offering memory. You inhale. The vibration strengthens. You exhale. It softens. The pillar responds to breath. You open your eyes and step back, air expanding in your lungs more easily than before. The wind resumes its path, brushing lightly across your face, carrying with it a faint sound, a note, so faint you think you imagined it. A single tone, warm, low, dissolving almost instantly. The pillar holds echoes. You walk around it slowly. On the far side, the striations deepen into grooves that form a subtle spiral, so subtle it's only visible when the sun hits it from a low angle. The spiral tightens near the center, then vanishes into a tiny indentation where the tip of your finger fits perfectly. You touch the center. A hum rises, soft, steady, ancient. The air changes around you. You hear something faint, not from your ears, but from the air pressed against your skin. A whisper of sound, a long-forgotten call, a voice carried by wind and time. But before you can understand it, the sound fades, swallowed by the steppe's vast silence. You continue around the pillar. Near the northern face, the grooves shift orientation, forming faint, wave-like patterns, like ripples spreading across a pond. You kneel. The patterns are more precise here, almost mathematical. You run your hand along them. The vibration strengthens. A rhythmic pulse moves along your fingertips. A heartbeat. Not human, not animal, not your own. A heartbeat of stone. You lean closer, placing your ear against the pillar. A sound emerges from within, soft, distant, like hearing someone shout from far across a canyon. A single echo. It drifts upward, fades, then returns, softer. The pillar is holding something, a memory, a last echo of something the wind once carried across the step. You pull back gently, the wind picks up again. This time it circles the pillar, forming a spiral of dust and dry grass. The air hums, the pillar vibrates, the hollow pulses faintly behind you. You feel pulled, not by force, but by invitation. A narrow depression extends outward from the base, forming a kind of natural path leading away from the sentinel. You follow it, each step sinking slightly into the soft, bare earth. The path widens into a shallow valley. In its center lies a cluster of smaller stones, rounded, smoothed, arranged in a wide arc as though marking the edge of something once significant. You approach the stones. Each one hums faintly, too faint to hear, but enough to feel when your hand brushes the surface. You kneel beside the nearest one. Its top is flattened, a shallow bowl lies at its center, empty, smooth, warm. You touch the bowl. A pulse, slow, deep. A memory moves through you, not clear, not sharp, just a feeling. A person standing in this valley long ago, breath rising in soft clouds, hands cupped around their mouth, a shout, a call, a name. Their voice travels across the valley, rises over the stones, is carried by wind toward the pillar, and disappears. You inhale sharply. The bowl warms further beneath your hand. This valley was once a place of calling, not ritual, not worship, but communication across distance. The pillar held the echoes, kept them, still keeps them. You rise and stand in the center of the valley. Wind circles your legs. Dust lifts gently. The hum from the pillar reaches you even here. A faint tone emerges, warm, low, fading into silence. You turn toward the pillar. The step seems to inhale. Clouds drift lower, shadows lengthen. You begin walking back. As you approach the pillar again, something has changed. The hollow glows faintly. The spiral shines in the low light. The striations pulse. You step close. The air thickens. You place your hand on the stone, and the pillar hums with a tone deeper than any you have felt so far. A final echo, a last memory, a breath of a voice once carried to this place. It rises, falls, rises again, then quiets, and with warmth spreading through your hand, up your arm, into your chest, the stone gives you a single word, shaped by memory, spoken through echo. The word folds into you like a warm breath, faint at first, then settling deeper, vibrating softly behind your ribs. You step back from the pillar, keeping your hand on its surface until the hum quiets. When you finally lower your arm, the wind rises again, sweeping gently across the step, as if relieved you had heard what the pillar needed to release. You turn slowly, letting the silence settle. The plain stretches outward in quiet waves of grass, each blade shifting under the soft push of evening wind. Dusk is beginning its slow descent. The sky gathers shades of violet and rose at the horizon, forming long brushstrokes of color that blur into one another. Far behind you, the smaller stones in the valley deep into silhouettes. The world feels suspended, held in its own breath, waiting for you to listen. You take a few steps away from the sentinel. The air thins, the hum weakens, then shifts, not fading, redirecting, toward somewhere you have not yet gone. You turn your head, following the sensation, and see a faint depression in the land curving away from the valley. It winds through sparse clusters of grass and small dunes, disappearing behind a slight rise. The path feels intentional, though shaped by nothing more than wind and time. You follow it. The step widens once more, opening into a long corridor of land where the wind moves not randomly, but in slow, sweeping strokes like a river flowing across an invisible channel. Dust rises in quiet spirals. The air grows warmer. The horizon expands into a vast sheet of fading blue. You walk until you reach the rise, and there, beyond it, lies something unexpected. A circle of stones. Not large, not tall, just a ring of round, smooth stones pressed gently into the earth. Each one is small enough to lift by hand, large enough to endure centuries of winters and storms. The circle is incomplete. Several stones have fallen inward or shifted slightly, but the pattern is unmistakable. A gathering place. A place where voices once met the wind. A place where echoes began their journey toward the pillar. You step into the circle. Immediately the wind quiets. Not entirely, just enough to make the world sharper, more attentive. Within the circle, sound behaves differently. Your footsteps are clearer. Your breath rings faintly. Even the rustling grass seems amplified. You kneel beside one of the stones. A shallow groove curves along its top, forming a crescent shape. When you trace it with your finger, warmth rises, soft, familiar, a cousin to the warmth of the pillar. You lean closer. The stone hums, barely, delicately, like a small echo that never found the pillar. Another stone hums, then another, not loud, not insistent, just a quiet chain reaction triggered by your presence. You stand in the center of the circle. Wind sweeps over the stones, threading between them like fingers brushing strings of an ancient instrument. Each stone produces a faint, gentle tone, different pitch, different timbre, creating a soft harmony that dissolves almost as soon as it forms. You listen. It feels like standing inside a memory. A faint chorus of voices drifting through the steppe. Not words, not messages, just human sound, unburdened, carried freely by wind. You close your eyes. A sensation unfolds. People once stood here. Men, women, children. A community gathered in the golden dusk, faces turned toward the wind. They sang. Not for ritual, not for worship, for connection. Their voices rose in long, open notes. Sound traveled across the circle. Wind carried it outward. The pillar received it, held it, kept it. The pillar stored their last echo, their final breath of song, before silence claimed the steppe. You open your eyes. A tear of warmth glides down your cheek. Not sadness, memory. The wind shifts again. This time it comes from the west, gentler, warmer, as if carrying a soft echo back toward the circle. Grass bends. Dust lifts in a spiral. The stones hum once more. You step outside the circle. The wind nudges your shoulder, soft, guiding, directing you toward the far edge of the steppe. You walk. The land flattens, then dips. In the distance, a long line of low cliffs stretches across the horizon like a sleeping giant's spine. Their surfaces shine faintly as dusk settles deeper, the rock catching the last slivers of daylight. When you reach the cliffs, you find a cleft in the rock, narrow, shadowed, almost hidden under a slope of dry grass. A faint hum rises from within. You step inside. The passage is short, opening into a small cavern carved by wind over centuries. The ceiling dips low, forcing you to bow your head. Streaks of mineral deposits glimmer along the walls. The air is cool and dense, carrying a stillness unlike any you felt outside. And at the back of the cavern stands a slab of stone, not tall, not imposing, but deliberate. Its surface curves slightly inward, forming a shallow basin that resembles a giant cupped palm. The basin is smooth, polished naturally by centuries of wind-blown sand. At its center lies a small depression, filled with dust and fragments of dried grass. You wipe the dust gently aside. Hidden beneath it is a mark, a circle, a perfect circle, carved so lightly you would never see it without touching it. You trace it with your fingertip. A vibration rises instantly. The cavern hums. Not just the slab, the walls, the ceiling, the floor. All hum as one. The sound gathers in the basin, soft, warm, resonant. You know suddenly what this place is, the source of the echoes, not where voices began, but where they gathered. Where wind brought fragments, memories, tones, sighs, last breaths, and held them in a single bowl of stone. You place your palm into the basin. A warm pulse spreads outward. A memory follows. A lone traveler kneeling here long ago, breath shallow, voice trembling, whispering a name carried by wind, heard by no one, held by stone. The cavern hums once more. You lift your hand slowly. The hum fades. Silence returns. But something soft remains in the air. A single heartbeat of warmth. You exit the cavern. Night has arrived fully now. Stars scatter across the sky, like shards of old memory. The wind lifts and carries softly toward the pillar, waiting. You walk back across the steppe, following the familiar vibration beneath your feet. When the pillar rises again on the horizon, illuminated only by starlight, it feels less like stone and more like a living sentinel, guarding the last breaths of the past. You approach it. The pillar hums, warm, slow, grateful. You lay your hand on its surface. The warmth deepens, flows through your arm, settles in your chest. The pillar vibrates in a long, slow wave that rises, falls, rises again, like a breath finally released. Then, a faint echo escapes the stone, a soft, vanishing sound, the last whisper of a voice held for centuries, the final echo. You step back as the wind calms. The pillar quiets. The earth grows still. The sky deepens. In that vast, peaceful silence, the pillar gives you its final truth, spoken through the warmth that remains on your palm. What is carried by silence is never lost. You breathe out. The wind answers with a gentle sigh. Night rests across the steppe like a blanket drawn slowly over memory, and the pillar stands in perfect quiet, holding nothing now, but waiting, patiently, for the next echo the world chooses to give it. The wall that refused to crumble. The desert does not greet you with heat, not at first. It greets you with silence. A silence so clean, so untouched, that even the wind seems to hesitate before crossing it. The Balak Highlands stretch around you, in muted shades of copper, sand, and ash, their shapes worn smooth by centuries of storms that wander aimlessly across the land. You walk along a rising path of cracked stone, each step sending tiny pebbles scattering down the slope. The sky overhead is immense, washed pale by the sun but slowly deepening into the quiet warmth of late afternoon. A thin haze hangs above the horizon, broken by distant ridges that rise from the earth like the spines of ancient creatures buried beneath the sand. The air is dry enough to taste. Dust clings to your boots. The wind brushes your shoulders, light, almost respectful, as if it remembers every traveler who has ever passed this way. Somewhere ahead lies the place you came to find. A ruin, a wall, a remnant of a fort too old for maps and too stubborn for time. The elders call it the wall that refused to crumble. You continue forward. The path narrows between two ridges. Small shrubs cling to the rock. Thorny, wiry things that survive not because conditions allow them to, but because conditions challenge them to. They sway gently in the wind as you pass, their shadows long against the sand. Then the land opens again, and there, rising from a shallow basin of earth, you see it, a lone wall, tall, scarred, defiant. It stretches across the desert floor in a long arc of stone, its edges uneven, yet somehow still holding perfect balance against the rising wind. Light cracks shimmer along its weathered surface, catching the sun at angles that make the wall look almost alive. You approach slowly. At first glance it appears fragile, just another ruin of forgotten battles long dissolved into sand. But the closer you come, the more impossible it becomes. For a wall this exposed, this ancient, should not still be standing. The stones are stacked in tightly fit rows, far too precise to be random, far too delicate to survive centuries of storms. Yet here it stands, one continuous stretch of stone, unbroken, unfallen, refusing, somehow, to crumble. You step closer. A stray gust of wind rushes around the edges of the wall, whistling softly as it passes. The sound changes as it brushes the stones, lower, deeper, almost like a breath. You rest your palm against the stone, warm, not sun warm, not surface warm, warm from within. A faint vibration hums under your hand. Slow, deep, steady, as though the wall has a pulse. You step back. The sunlight shifts across its surface and reveals something hidden. On the lower stones, beneath thin coats of dust and time, tiny markings run in long horizontal lines, not writing, not symbols, patterns, wind-shaped patterns, curves, ridges, swirls, as though each stone once lay somewhere else, somewhere the wind carved it into memory before being brought here, assembled by hands long vanished. You move to the far left edge of the wall. Here the stones are smooth, too smooth. You brush them lightly. The smoothness hides another surprise. Not a crack, not erosion, a groove, a single deep groove that runs diagonally from the base upward, then vanishes halfway through the wall. It feels too deliberate to be random, yet too natural to be carved. You kneel. The groove's interior is warm as well, warmer than the stone around it, like a channel that once carried heat, or breath, or sound. You place your ear near it. Silence. Then, a faint echo. Not a voice, not a word, just a tone, low, soft, a memory of sound that refuses to leave. You rise slowly. The wall is deeper than it appears. You walk along its length. Each section feels different. One hums softly, another carries warmth, yet another feels cool, as though storing the memory of nights colder than frost. As you near the far end, the stones shift in color, gray to brown, brown to copper, copper to a pale, sand-smoothed gold. Here the wall is thicker, stronger. The wind presses harder, but the wall does not move, does not groan, does not bend. It simply stands, as if the storms around it are nothing more than passing breaths of an old friend. You rest your hand again on the golden section. A sudden warmth rises, stronger now, pulsing beneath your palm. The vibration deepens, your fingertips tingle, your chest fills with a quiet, steady resonance. You inhale, the wall hums. You exhale, the hum softens, the wall responds to breath. You whisper a soft sound, just a sigh. The wall echoes it back, but not the same. Your sigh returns in a deeper tone, richer, carrying weight, as though the wall remembers every sound ever breathed into it. You step away, breath unsteady. This wall is listening. The wind circles behind you, lifting dust in soft spirals. A shadow falls across the stones, clouds drifting slowly overhead, darkening the surface of the wall, until the golden stones look almost bronze. Lightning flashes far on the horizon. The storm is distant, but the wall stiffens in your presence as though bracing itself. You move closer and place both hands on the stone. Warmth spreads up your arms, quiet, deep, steady. A memory rises, a storm long ago, winds that screamed across the desert, rain that pounded the earth, lightning that split the sky. And this wall, standing, wind tearing at its face, sand cutting at its edges, thunder shaking the ground beneath it. But the wall did not move. Not once. The memory fades, but the feeling remains. Strength, endurance, patience older than anything you've ever touched. The sun sinks lower, shadows stretch long across the desert floor. You follow the wall back toward the center, where a large stone juts slightly outward. A keystone, a heartstone. You touch it. The hum rises sharply, as if the wall recognizes that point, as if half its memory lies beneath your hand. You lean your ear against the stone. A sound emerges, a deep, distant breath, a long-held echo, a pulse that has survived every storm. Then, faintly, softly, yet unmistakably, a whisper, not in language, not in words, just the feeling of a whisper, a presence, a recognition. The wall breathes out. Your skin warms, your breath catches, wind circles you gently, lifting dust in a slow, spiraling motion. The hum deepens. The wall grants you one silent message, a memory carried through stone and sand and storm. The whisper from the stone still trembles faintly in your chest when you step back. Dusk has deepened while you listened, quietly, almost imperceptibly, until the entire desert now glows with that rare hour when sun and night share the sky. Shades of rose cling to distant ridges, fading into violet and then into the deepening blue on the far horizon. Wind curls softly around you, not cold, not sharp, just present, as though acknowledging you or preparing you for what comes next. You walk slowly along the wall again, letting your fingertips drag lightly across its surface. Each stone feels subtly different, some warm, some cool, some vibrating faintly as though answering a question you have not yet spoken. When you reach the keystone, the stone that juts slightly outward, you pause. It no longer feels like a piece of masonry, it feels like a heart. You place your hand on it once more. The warmth deepens instantly, rising through your palm, along your wrist, and into your breath. It doesn't startle you. The sensation is soft, almost comforting, like leaning your back against a sun-warmed rock after a long walk. The wind quiets completely. An unusual hush settles over the desert, as if the entire landscape is listening with you. You rest your ear against the stone again. This time, the hum is stronger, not louder, stronger, steadier, more deliberate, a vibration with purpose. You close your eyes. It becomes clearer, a rhythm, a pattern, a sequence of long and short pulses, not language, not code, simply memory. You open your eyes, but keep your hand on the keystone. A distant rumble rolls across the desert. Not thunder, the sound is deeper, drier. Wind pushing across sand, gathering force somewhere beyond the horizon, and carrying with it the faint echo of storms buried in time. The wall hums in response. Your chest tightens with recognition. This place is not merely a ruin, it is a recorder, a keeper of storms, a guardian of echoes carried across centuries of desert wind. You step back slowly, your breath sinking with the soft hum that radiates through the keystone. The wall seems to exhale, the vibration fades, but does not disappear. It moves deeper into the stone, retreating the way a memory retreats when it has been recalled too sharply and must settle again. The sky grows darker. Stars emerge one by one above the ridgelines. They shimmer softly, their reflections faintly mirrored on the smoother stones of the wall. Sand glimmers in patches where stray light catches tiny fragments of quartz. A faint curve in the desert dust draws your attention. Not part of the wall, part of the land. A half-buried path, thin, winding, barely visible except in the last sliver of twilight. It leads away from the wall, not directly south or east or west, but diagonally across the land, toward a small rise where shadows gather beneath a broken ridge. You follow the path. With each step, the hum beneath your feet grows softer, then stronger, then softer again, fluctuating like breath. You arrive at the rise. The ground dips into a shallow depression. A cluster of stones sits there, not shaped, not stacked, but arranged by nature into a curved pattern that resembles the beginning of a spiral. In its center lies a stone unlike the others, flat, wide, smooth, worn by time into a perfect resting cradle for the wind. You kneel beside it, your fingertips brush its surface, cold, unexpectedly cold considering the desert air still holds the last warmth of day. But beneath that coldness, beneath the stone itself, something else moves, a fragile vibration, a trembling almost too faint to feel, like the ghost of a memory the land refuses to release. You press your palm more firmly against the stone. The vibration steadies, then grows. A tone rises, from deep within the stone, then through the earth, then into your body. It is not musical, not melodic, yet full of strange and soft harmony. You close your eyes. A sensation unfolds, not a vision, not an image, a presence, a group of people, standing right here centuries ago, surrounding this same stone. Their voices rise softly, carried by the evening wind. They speak not in chants, not in ritual, but in quiet conversation. The wind carries their words across the land, over the dunes, over the valley, to the wall. The wall collects them, holds them, stores them for lifetimes. You pull your hand away slowly. The cold retreats. The vibration softens. The presence fades like a quiet breath. You stand. The path continues past the spiral of stones, bending deeper into shadow. You follow it. The darkness grows thicker, not threatening, just complete. A desert night, real night, the kind that swallows sound and leaves only wind as a memory. Finally, the path ends. Before you stands a stone arch, broken, tilted, but unmistakably shaped by hands. The remains of an old gate. You step beneath it. Inside is a sheltered space formed by leaning slabs of stone and drifted sand. The air is cooler here, almost still, and the ground bears faint impressions, circles, spirals, grooves, etched by centuries of wind. At the far end of the space lies another wall, much smaller, much older, cracked deeply, leaning slightly, but still refusing to fall. You walk to it. Place your hand on its surface. The hum returns, stronger now, clearer, fuller, as though every stone you touched earlier, every echo you awakened, every memory you brushed against, is gathering here. The small wall vibrates. You close your eyes again. This time the memory rises in full. A storm. A great storm. One that tore across the desert with such force that entire settlements fell to sand. Voices shouting, walls shaking, wind howling like a living thing. In the midst of that chaos, the main fort stood, the great wall you touched earlier, holding firm, refusing to crumble, even when the world around it did. It became the last thing standing, the last structure in the storm, the last refuge, the last recorder of the voices that disappeared into the wind. The memory dissolves. You open your eyes. The wall beneath your hand is cool now, the hum barely there, resting again. You walk back through the arch, back along the path, back across the dunes, back to the great wall. Night fully owns the desert now. Stars glisten like cold embers. Wind moves gently, carefully, as though mindful of your steps. You stand again before the wall. The keystone glows faintly, not with light, but with warmth. You touch it. The hum rises for the final time, deep, warm, steady. A long breath of memory passes through you, and in that breath, the wall shares its last truth. Strength is not in stone. It is in what stone chooses to remember. The hum fades. The wind settles. The desert grows still, ancient, vast, peaceful. You lower your hand and let the night fold around you as the wall that refused to crumble returns to its quiet watch over the echoes of 1,000 lost storms. The gate cut by no hand. The basalt plains of Madagascar do not shout their presence. They reveal themselves gradually, the way old memories do, softly, with patience. You cross the landscape as the afternoon light begins its slow descent. The earth beneath your boots is dark, almost black, broken by long cracks and ridges formed by ancient lava flows that cooled into impossible patterns. The air carries a faint warmth still lingering from the sun, but the wind rolling across the plain cools it into something gentler, something that brushes against your skin like a quiet reminder that the day is ending. Shadows lengthen across the basalt, stretching like long fingers reaching toward the horizon. In the distance, the land rises and falls in low waves, each ridge masking something older beneath it. Sparse grasses push through fractures in the rock, rustling softly whenever the wind passes over them. Somewhere ahead, hidden in this dark and shifting landscape, lies the place you came to find, the gate cut by no hand. A doorway, a divide, a threshold that should not exist. The elders speak of it rarely. A standing portal made not by tools, nor by the earth splitting cleanly, but by something older than both. You walk until the basalt beneath your feet begins to change. First it thins, then it rises, subtle, gradual, into small ridges shaped like frozen waves. The patterns grow more pronounced as you continue, swirling like the remains of molten rivers that cooled mid-motion. The wind changes too. It becomes quieter, more focused, as though it is being pulled toward a single point in the distance, a point you can feel long before you see it. The basalt ridge ahead splits into two natural walls flanking a narrow path. The walls rise higher than the surrounding plain, smooth in some places, jagged in others, but always carrying the same dark sheen of old volcanic stone. You step into the passage. Immediately, the wind softens to a slow drift. Sound shifts. Footsteps echo differently, longer, deeper, as though traveling into the stone itself. You continue walking. The walls converge gradually, creating a narrowing corridor. Thin cracks run vertically along their surfaces, glowing faintly with residual warmth, as though the stone remembers fire even now. As the corridor narrows further, you notice something else. The air grows heavier, not with heat, not with scent, with presence. You slow your steps, then the corridor opens, and you see it. The gate. A single standing portal carved through solid basalt, rectangular, tall, smooth on every side. Impossible. No tool marks, no fractures, no signs of chiseling or erosion, just a clean divide in the rock, as though a perfect doorway had been lifted out of the stone like a piece of cloth pulled cleanly from a seam. You stand a few meters away, speech lost to the quiet. The doorway rises nearly twice your height, its edges impossibly straight, sharper than any natural formation, and smoother than stone should ever allow. Light passes through it gently, casting a soft golden glow on the basalt inside the frame. The opening is empty, just air, just silence, yet something unmistakable lingers around it. A feeling, a pull, a quiet awareness. You approach slowly. The basalt around the doorway shifts subtly in color, dark gray to deep blue, to a faint violet when the wind moves across it. You extend your hand toward the stone, warm, unexpectedly warm, almost like skin warmed by the sun, yet the sun no longer touches this part of the ridge. You place your palm fully against the edge of the gate. A vibration rises, soft at first, then stronger, not enough to shake the stone, just enough to feel like a pulse held deep inside it. The air within the doorway shifts. The light changes tone, cooler now, as if the opening no longer reflects the world behind it, but something deeper, something stored within. You step back. The stone hums faintly. Wind circles behind you, drawing loose dust into small spirals that drift toward the gate before dissipating in the air. You crouch and examine the base. The basalt here is smoother than anywhere else, almost polished. A shallow groove curves across the threshold, formed not by water or sand, but by repeated contact, as though countless feet once crossed here. You stand, sensing the depth of time pressing against your awareness. The doorway feels old, older than the basalt that surrounds it, older than the plains, older than the settlers whose villages vanished long before your arrival. But one thing is clear: this gate was not cut, it was opened. You walk around to its back. The rear surface is identical, smooth, perfect edges, no cracks, no weaknesses. But the air here feels different, cooler, denser, quieter. You place your hand on the back edge. The vibration returns, quicker this time, more insistent, as though it recognizes you. Your breath deepens unconsciously. The ground beneath your feet hums. Just once, a short, low tremor that fades instantly. You glance down. The basalt is fractured here, not with chaos, but with intent. Thin lines branch outward from the gate's base in symmetrical patterns, like veins, or the roots of a tree. You trace one line. Warmth pulses beneath your fingertips. A memory rises from the stone. Not visual, not spoken, just sensation. A stormless night, wind held still, darkness gathering, something stepping through the gate, not built, not carved, but revealed. The memory drops away. You steady yourself with a slow breath. The gate hums again. You return to the front, drawn without hesitation. The opening glows faintly now, not with light, but with darkness sharpened into shape. The inside of the portal looks deeper than before, as though space has thickened within it. You step closer. The wind stops. Your heartbeat slows, calms, sinks with the quiet rhythm in the stone. The air shifts around your face, warmer, then cooler, then still. A pressure forms gently at your shoulders, not pushing, not pulling, just guiding. You place your hand on the inner frame of the gate. The stone warms instantly. A slow hum rises, low, deep, ancient. It fills your chest, reaching your breath, your pulse, your ribs. You close your eyes. A sensation unfolds, not a vision, not a dream, but a presence. Someone once stood where you now stand. More than someone, many, not builders, not passers-by, witnesses. The basalt remembers them, their breaths, their steps, the way they slowed when they approached this place. Perhaps they did not know why they paused, or why they felt seen, or why the gate hummed just for them, as it hums now for you. You open your eyes. Dusk has deepened across the plain. Stars emerge, dim at first, then brighter against the darkening sky. The gate holds their reflection. The stone glows faintly. Something in your chest loosens. A slow exhale you didn't realize you'd been holding. The hum fades, then returns, stronger, then fades again. A rhythm, a pulse, a whisper of invitation. You step forward, 1 foot over the threshold. A breath, a pause. Nothing shifts, nothing changes. You lift your second foot, cross fully. The hum deepens. The air behind you stirs. Dust rises. Wind circles the basalt walls. And from deep within the gate, from the place you cannot see, the place inside the stone, a single quiet word emerges. The word reverberates through your chest, long after the vibration fades. You stand still on the far side of the threshold, palms faintly warm, breath shallow, feeling as if the air itself has thickened in the space around you. The basalt hums beneath your feet, a subtle, steady tremor that feels strangely like the land is acknowledging your crossing. Wind drifts through the gate behind you, but it no longer sounds like mere wind. It moves with shape, with intention. Each gust loops through the frame, swirling once behind you, before dissolving into the open plain. You take a step forward. The world on this side of the gate is not different. Same basalt plains, same gentle twilight, same vast emptiness, yet something subtle has shifted. The silence feels heavier. The air feels older. Shadows fall in ways that seem slightly unfamiliar. You walk slowly, letting your senses adjust. The basalt ground here is smoother, less fractured, more polished, as though shaped by something other than erosion and time. Thin lines run across the surface, patterns too subtle to be carvings, too consistent to be random. They flow outward from the gate like ripples, spreading in all directions until they scatter into emptiness. One ripple line catches your eye. You kneel and touch it. Warm, not from the sun. No sunlight reaches this place now. Warm from within the stone itself. The warmth pulses gently. You follow the ripple line. It leads across the dark plain toward a slight rise in the landscape. The ground curves upward, in a long, slow swell. Its slope gentle but purposeful. The wind moves differently here, less chaotic, more focused, as though following the same path you are. You reach the top, and there, half hidden by the slope, lies something extraordinary. A stone hollow, perfectly circular. Carved into the basalt with smooth, flawless precision, it looks like a bowl large enough to hold a pool of water, yet perfectly dry, its surface untouched by sand or dust, as though protected. You step closer. The hollow is about the height of your waist. Shadows pool gently inside it. The edge is thin and elegantly rounded, as if shaped by something that moved slowly, deliberately, with patience beyond human measure. You lean over the edge. Inside lies nothing. No water, no markings, no remnants, just stillness. But the air inside it feels different, cooler, calmer, weighted with a kind of restful density. You touch the inner wall of the hollow. A vibration climbs instantly up your fingers. Then, a breath. The hollow breathes. A single, soft exhale rises from its depths, carrying with it a faint warmth that brushes your face and disappears into the air. You tense, not in fear, but in recognition. You have felt this before, at the gate, in the stone, in the subtle hum beneath your feet. This hollow remembers breath. It remembers presence. It remembers something stepping through the gate, long before you did. You stand upright, letting the sensation settle. Around the hollow, the basalt ground bears faint indentations, shallow depressions spaced evenly around its perimeter. You crouch and examine one. It is shaped like a footstep. Not human, not animal, something else. You run your fingers across the shape. Warm. The warmth spreads gently across your hand. A pulse rises. A breath follows. A memory unfolds in your mind. Fragile, incomplete. A tall figure standing beside this hollow, shadowed, indistinct, long-limbed, still. The figure lowers its head, places a hand on the basalt, pauses, breathes into the hollow. The air glows faintly, then the memory fades. You withdraw your hand slowly. The wind picks up again, circling the hollow in a slow upward spiral, a quiet, swirling column of air that dissipates before reaching the sky. The hollow exhales once more, very softly, almost shyly, a breath not meant to startle, but to invite. You place your hand inside the hollow, resting your palm flat against the center. The stone warms under your touch. The air thickens. The vibration rises, slow at first, then steady, a pulse you begin to breathe with. You close your eyes. Your mind empties, then fills. Not with images, not with visions, but with a sensation, a pathway. Not physical, not visible, but felt. A pathway that begins at this hollow, leads back toward the gate, passes through the divide, and continues beyond it, into something unseen. You lift your hand finally. The warmth fades gently. The hollow's breath quiets. When you stand again, the wind changes. It blows not from the east or west, but from the gate, as though urging you back. You walk down the slope. The ripple lines beneath your feet glow faintly now, catching the last light of evening in soft, guiding glimmers. As you return to the gate, the frame grows darker, its surface absorbing the last of the dusk glow. The wind circles behind you, moving faster now, looping around your shoulders, gathering around the doorway as though tying invisible threads through it. You step up to the threshold. The basalt hums. The air thickens. A pressure gathers gently in your chest. Not heavy, not uncomfortable, just present. You place your hand on the frame. The vibration rises instantly, warm, steady, familiar. The gate brightens, not with light, with darkness refined, a depth so pure that it becomes a kind of glow, a soft presence that makes the air shimmer. You step closer. The hum deepens, filling the doorway like a breath held just before release. You inhale. The gate inhales. You exhale. The gate exhales. A final vibration travels up your arm, quiet, kind, closing a circle you did not realize you had opened. And in that soft, heavy warmth, the stone reveals its last truth. Openings do not call for those who seek. They call for those who listen. The hum fades. The wind softens. Night settles fully across the basalt plain. You lower your hand, feeling the air lighten, feeling your breath ease. Behind you, the hollow grows still. Ahead of you, the basalt stretches into quiet dark, and the gate, cut by no hand, returns to its silent watch, not closed, not open, simply waiting for the next listener to hear its breath. The stone that followed the herds. The tundra does not greet you with cold. It greets you with space. A wide, endless breadth of pale sky stretching in every direction, so open and untouched that you feel momentarily weightless within it. The ground beneath your boots crackles softly, under a thin crust of frost, delicate patterns of ice drawn overnight by winds that drift across Siberia without pause. The horizon rolls in long, soft waves of white and silver. Snow gathers in low ridges where the wind has sculpted it into crescent shapes, and dark patches of frozen earth break through in places like old scars. Nothing here stands tall except the sky itself. You walk through that vast quiet, breath rising in faint clouds that disappear quickly into the clear air. The sun hangs low, even at midday, slanting soft rays across the tundra that glimmer like muted fire on frost. Somewhere ahead lies the place the reindeer herders speak of only when the nights are long and the wind sings too loudly. The stone that followed the herds. You continue moving north. The land crunches beneath you, each step sending tiny shards of ice skittering across the surface. The air carries a strange stillness, too still for tundra winds, as if something large and old is holding its breath. The first sign of it appears on the horizon, a small rise in the landscape, barely noticeable, more of a suggestion than a shape. But the closer you come, the more that shape sharpens, a dark form standing upright against the snow. Not tall, not imposing, just present, a single stone, alone, and yet, as you draw nearer, it feels anything but alone. It rises from the frozen earth at a slight lean, one side coated in a thin sheet of rime ice that reflects the weak sunlight and flickers. The stone's surface is dark gray, smoother than tundra stones ought to be, worn not by water or sand but by something else, time, perhaps, or motion. You stop a few paces away. The stone is not shaped like a monument, not carved, not chiseled, just a standing slab, shoulders rounded, edges softened, as if it has moved through wind and ice for generations. You place your hand on it, cold of course, but beneath the cold, something else, a steady warmth, a pulse, slow, rhythmic, like breath trapped deep inside. You step back, breath clouding the air. The tundra around you is silent, too silent. Wind moves across the plain, but when it reaches the stone, the sound changes, muted slightly, softened, as though the stone absorbs it. You walk slowly around it. On the far side, the snow is disturbed. Not by humans, not by animals, not by recent weather, by something that moved the earth decades, centuries, millennia ago. Long, shallow grooves extend outward from the stone in sweeping arcs. Not straight lines, but curves, like the paths made by something heavy being dragged steadily across frozen ground. You kneel beside one of the grooves. Your fingers hover over the smooth ice inside it. The surface is polished, not by tools, not by traffic, by repetition, movement. The stone has moved. Not once, not twice, but many times. You rise slowly, the herder's stories return to you. Whispers around quiet fires, voices low against the howl of winter winds. A stone that follows the herds, not through magic, not through myth, but through motion that the tundra remembers, even when people forget. You walk farther around the stone. On its northern face you find shallow indentations, tiny pits arranged in a loose vertical pattern. You touch one, warm. You touch another, warm. You press your palm against the cluster. The warmth deepens. Beneath your hand, a vibration rises, a faint hum that trembles through your palm, then your wrist, then settles gently behind your ribs. You close your eyes. A sensation unfolds, not a sound, not a memory, but a movement, a slow, powerful shift. Earth beneath snow, snow sliding over ice. The weight of the stone moving forward, inch by inch, night after night, following the migration paths of reindeer, as though the stone itself remembers the routes. You open your eyes. The hum fades, the warmth remains. Wind picks up behind you. Snow swirls across the tundra in long ribbons, gathering near the stone before sweeping past you toward the endless open plain. The air grows colder, sharper, carrying the scent of distant forests far to the south. You feel watched, not by eyes, by presence, not threatening, just attentive. You take a deep breath and lean your shoulder gently against the stone. It doesn't move, but you feel something shift, subtle, small, as if the stone acknowledges your weight. Your breath slows, your heartbeat steadies, and faintly, from somewhere beneath the earth, you hear a soft rumble, not thunder, not cracking ice, a memory of countless hooves striking frozen ground, a migration that shook the tundra like breath, year after year, century after century. The ground vibrates beneath your feet, lightly, steadily, as though echoing the rhythm of those ancient migrations. You step away and begin walking outward along one of the long grooves that stretches away from the stone. The groove curves slowly, disappearing into snowdrifts ahead. You follow it. Each step reveals more. Another groove, another curve, another path, until finally you crest a small rise, and see dozens more. Grooves in every direction, some faint, some deep, some barely visible beneath layers of wind-blown snow. Paths, routes, trails of movement so old that only the land remembers them. A migration map carved by stone. You walk among them slowly, heart calm, breath soft. The wind quiets, the light shifts, and when you turn back toward the stone, you see something new. Shadows gathering around it, not from clouds, not from twilight, but from memory. You walk back toward the stone. The closer you come, the more the air thickens with quiet anticipation. You place your hand on the stone again, warm, alive, listening. Something moves beneath your palm, a vibration deeper than before, steady, slow, ancient. You inhale. The vibration strengthens. You exhale. It softens. The stone follows your breath. You lean your forehead gently against its surface. A sensation rises through the stone and into your skin. The sound of hooves, the warmth of fur, the breath of great herds moving in slow waves across the tundra. Night after night, season after season, following paths older than memory, and the stone, this stone, following them. Not rolling, not falling, not being pushed, moving, drawn by the quiet pull of the herds, the way a compass is drawn by north. You pull back, dizzy with calm. The stone hums faintly. Then softly, from deep within it, a single warm word rises, silent but unmistakable. The word lingers inside you, soft and heavy like warm breath caught beneath layers of winter clothing. You pull your hand gently away from the stone, but the warmth does not leave your skin. It follows you as you take a step back, as though the stone is unwilling to release the contact entirely. Wind drifts in from the east, not sharp, not forceful, just a low wandering current carrying the faint scent of distant larch forests. The sky above stretches wider, dimming slowly into blue-gray dusk, and the herder's stories settle around you like quiet snow. You turn away from the stone and begin tracing another groove in the tundra, letting your feet follow the shallow depression carved long ago by movement. Movement so slow, so steady, that the land itself grew accustomed to it. Each path curves differently. Some sweep outward in long arcs. Some weave irregularly, as if the stone altered course based on the shifting migrations of reindeer. As you walk, the wind begins shifting again, not erratically, but rhythmically, rising with your inhale and falling with your exhale. You pause. The tundra is listening. A faint tremor rises beneath your boots. Not dangerous, small, steady, a heartbeat pulsing through frozen earth. The herds, for a moment you almost expect to hear hooves thudding across the snow, but the sound never comes. Only the echo remains, the land remembering what once moved here in massive, breathing waves. You continue walking. The groove leads you toward a low ridge. A deposit of old volcanic rock juts from the tundra like a broken spine, half buried beneath ice and snow. You climb it slowly, frost crackling under your boots. From the top, the view widens. The world becomes an ocean of white. Rolling, frozen, endless. No trees, no hills, only the faint lines, just visible in the dying light, where the stone moved over centuries. From up here, those lines form shapes, circles, arcs, long meandering loops. Patterns too purposeful to be random, yet too ancient to fully decipher. A migration map carved not by people, but by stone. You climb down the ridge, curiosity guiding you deeper into the cold. A faint shimmer catches your eye in the snow, not light, but motion. You kneel. At first you see nothing, then beneath a thin crust of ice, you see it. A second stone, smaller, rounded, half buried, but undeniably connected. You brush snow away from its surface. It is smooth, smooth like the first stone. The same dark gray color, the same faint warmth beneath the cold. You touch it. A hum responds instantly, higher pitched than the larger stone's hum, but similar enough to feel like kinship. You place your palm fully on it. A memory rises, not yours. Reindeer hooves pounding the snow in thousands. A herd so large its breath becomes a cloud drifting across the landscape. The vibration travels along the ground, touching this smaller stone, nudging it into motion. The stone moves, slow, sure, carried not by force, but by resonance. You pull your hand away. Wind sweeps across the tundra, carrying a soft moan through the cracks in the ridge. The cry echoes faintly, drawing you onward. You follow the sound. It leads you to a long depression in the earth, a hollow filled with packed ice, its shape unmistakable. A sleeping place, not for humans, not for animals, for stones. The hollow is perfectly smooth, its interior rounded like a polished bowl. The marks along its edges show where something heavy once rested here, for days, months, maybe years. You step into the hollow. The air shifts. The earth beneath your feet vibrates for a moment. A brief remembering of weight no longer there. You place your hand on the hollow's base. It is cold, but beneath the cold, faint warmth. Another stone once rested here, a companion to the one that still stands. You rise slowly. The wind circles the hollow, stirring loose snow into small spirals that shimmer briefly in the fading light. The light dims further. Night begins to claim the tundra. You turn back toward the stone you came from. Its silhouette rises dark and quiet against the horizon. The glow of the sky around it, soft blue giving way to violet, makes the stone appear almost alive in the stillness. When you reach it, the stone greets you with warmth. You rest both hands against its surface. The vibration rises again, stronger now, urgent, as if the stone has been waiting for you to return. You close your eyes. The hum enters your chest, your breath, your pulse, and then you hear it. Not in your ears, in the stone, in the tundra, in the quiet memory of the land itself. A herd. Thousands of reindeer, breathing, moving, thundering across the tundra, their hooves striking frozen earth in a rhythm older than human history. The stone trembles in sympathy. The echo grows louder, not like sound, but like movement. You see it without seeing, the stone following them, inches at a time, night after night, drawn by vibration, guided by instinct older than the tundra. You pull away slightly, breath unsteady. The stone hums once more. A low, soft sound, full of ancient patience. You lean your forehead gently against it. The warmth spreads into your skin. The hum settles, the memory quiets. But then, just as your breath calms, the stone gives you something new. A final echo, soft, barely a whisper, a memory of motion, a message shaped not from words but from presence. Paths endure, even when the travelers do not. Your breath catches, the stone grows still. Night deepens across the tundra, stars shimmer above like frost on a sleeping sky. You step back, warmth fading reluctantly from your hands. The tundra exhales, wind drifts across the snow, silence settles again, old, vast, peaceful. And the stone that followed the herds returns to its waiting place, beneath the endless Siberian sky, patient, listening, quietly ready to follow the next ancient rhythm. The earth remembers. The light that hid inside stone. The highlands of Bolivia greet you with stillness before anything else. Not silence, stillness, a deeper, older quiet. The kind that seems to rise from the earth itself rather than settle from the sky. The air is thin but gentle, brushing your face with cool breaths that smell faintly of dust, stone, and the long-dried memory of ancient rains. The ground beneath your feet is baked into deep shades of gold and red, broken only by scattered clusters of quartz that glint softly in the sun like fragments of frozen lightning. The horizon stretches in long, unbroken lines, plateaus stacked against distant ridges, ridges rising into pale blue sky, sky fading into a softness that feels almost weightless. You are walking across a land shaped by wind, scarred by time, and held together by a quiet you can feel beneath your skin. Somewhere ahead, hidden in this endless expanse, lies what the locals whisper about only when dusk falls, a crystal shrine where light learned to sleep. They call it, the light that hid inside stone. The stories say it was not carved, not built, not placed, it grew. You continue walking. The path is barely visible, just a faint depression in the earth where countless footsteps once trailed across the plateau. Llamas graze far in the distance, their silhouettes moving slowly against the sky. A hawk circles overhead, marking the same quiet spiral again and again as though tethered to a pattern the air remembers. The ground rises gently. Quartz becomes more frequent. Small clusters at first, then large veins, then entire ridges threaded with white and pale blue crystal that glow faintly even in daylight. You run your hand along a ridge, cold, dry, but beneath the surface, a thrum, a faint vibration that feels like the stone is echoing your touch. You pull your hand away. The vibration lingers in your palm like a ghost of warmth. You walk deeper into the quartz field. Shards of crystal crunch underfoot in delicate tones, tiny, high-pitched chimes that scatter across the air. When the wind comes, it brushes these shards into soft music that seems to play from all directions at once, a path of light. You follow it. The plateau narrows between two long ridges of stone. The sunlight dims slightly, not from clouds but from the angle of the land. The air cools. Shadow drapes across the quartz. Then, a flicker, brief, soft, impossible. A pulse of white glimmers beneath a boulder ahead. You pause. The light does not return, but something in the air shifts, warmer, denser, expectant. You walk toward it. The ground slopes downward into a shallow basin ringed by quartz pillars. They rise from the earth at random angles, some leaning, some upright, all glittering faintly beneath a veil of dust. Between them lies a depression in the shape of a wide circle, its floor smoother than the land around it. You step into the basin. The air grows warmer still. The quartz pillars vibrate gently, almost imperceptibly, as though recognizing your presence. You kneel and place your palm against the floor of the basin. Warm. Not sun warm, not surface warm. Deep warm, a warmth held inside the stone itself. You press your hand more firmly. The warmth increases. A faint glow rises beneath your fingertips, soft at first, barely a shimmer, then a pulse. The light travels outward through the floor of the basin, following thin crystalline veins that you hadn't noticed before. They illuminate slowly, white, blue, pale gold, intersecting and branching like a web of frozen lightning. The entire basin glows. You stand, breath unsteady. The quartz pillars reflect the glow in delicate flashes, sending shards of pale light dancing across the ridges. And then, as though answering the basin, the boulder you first noticed pulses once more, a single beat of light. You approach it carefully. It is massive, rough, dark gray on the outside, not crystal at all, just simple, unassuming stone. But the moment your shadow touches it, the boulder glows from within, soft, blue, like moonlight trapped in stone. The glow fades quickly, but the presence remains. You place your hand against the boulder. This time the light responds instantly. It pulses beneath your palm, once, twice, then in a slow, steady rhythm that matches the beating of your heart. You lean closer, the surface warms, the glow strengthens, a vibration rises, not harsh, not sharp, but deep and resonant, like a note played on an instrument carved from the earth. You close your eyes, a sensation unfolds, not a sound, not an image, a presence. Someone once stood here, long before memory, long before the plateau became quiet. They touched the stone, and the stone answered, not with sound, with light. a light that grew inside the stone, hiding itself deeper and deeper, until only those who listened carefully could find its pulse. You open your eyes again. The glow fades beneath your hand, but does not disappear. The boulder hums softly. Then, beneath your palm, it moves. Not much, just a slight shift, like a breath, deep inside the rock. You step back, startled. The boulder settles, still again, quiet, but the sensation remains, an impression of life beneath the stone, slow and patient, a crystal heart. You circle around the boulder. The backside looks different, smoother, lighter in color, and covered with tiny crystalline veins that sparkle even without sunlight. You place your hand against the veins. Warmth, vibration, a pulse that matches the basin beneath your feet. The stone is connected to it, fed by it, holding something within it. Light, hidden light. You walk further around the boulder and find a narrow fissure, a small crack near the base, barely wide enough for your fingers. You crouch and peer inside. Darkness at first, then a flicker, a faint shimmer deep within the crack, like a star glimpsed through a narrow slit. You reach out gently. Your fingertips brush the edge of the fissure. A pulse of warmth travels up your arm, soft, inviting, alive. You inhale sharply. The boulder hums louder. You stand, breath slow, heart steadying. The quartz pillars around the basin begin to vibrate faintly, their soft chimes merging into a single, delicate tone. A thin wind drifts across the basin. Frost glitters briefly where the air moves. The light within the boulder brightens for an instant. Then, a second boulder responds. To your left, a pale flash travels along its surface and disappears. Then a third, then a fourth, then another, further along the ridge. All hidden crystal cores, all answering one another across the plateau. A network of silent sleeping shrines waking slowly in response to your touch. You step back to the center of the basin. The floor pulses again, blue streaks flowing outward from where you stand, like rivers of soft light drawn through the stone. The air thickens, warms, hums. You place both hands on the ground. A memory rises, fragile, crystalline. A people who lived here long ago, tall, soft-spoken, their clothes woven from plant fiber and wool. They carried quartz in their pockets, not as tools but as companions, pieces of the mountain they believed held the world's first breath. They built nothing, they carved nothing, they watched, waited, listened, and the stones listened back. They learned the language of light, the way it hides in crystal, sleeps inside rock, waits inside darkness for someone to wake it. You lift your hands slowly from the basin. The light fades, the hum quiets, the air cools, but something remains, a warmth beneath your palms that refuses to leave, a pulse behind your ribs that syncs with the stone. You turn toward the boulder again. It glows faintly, like the last ember of a fire waiting for one more breath. You place your hand on it. The warmth rises instantly. The glow strengthens. The vibration deepens. The pulse becomes clear. The stone shares one thought, one soft, ancient intention, shaped not by language but by memory. The warmth sinks into your palm so gently that at first you barely feel it. It spreads slowly, blooming outward into your wrist, your arm, your chest, until your breath unconsciously syncs with the slow pulse inside the stone. You stand still, hand resting against the crystal core boulder, feeling as though the ground beneath you has shifted only a few degrees, but enough to pull you deeper into its rhythm. When you finally step back, the glow inside the stone lingers for several long heartbeats before dimming into a quiet, waiting shimmer. The plateau around you feels changed, not louder, not brighter, just awake. The quartz pillars vibrate softly when the wind brushes past them. The basin beneath your feet holds its warmth longer. The air carries a delicate hum that feels like memory moving beneath the surface of the land. You breathe deeply. The light inside the stone answers with a faint shimmer. The sun has dipped lower, painting the far ridges in shades of copper and violet. A long shadow stretches across the ground, pointing toward a narrow break between two quartz-lined ridges. A path. You walk toward it. The ground changes beneath your feet, from hard, sun-baked earth to something smoother, subtly carved by time and wind. You run your fingers along the stone, polished, almost soft, shaped by 1,000 years of air moving through this corridor. The walls of the passage are streaked with thin veins of crystal, some white, some turquoise, some nearly clear as glass. As the last light of day filters through the ridge behind you, the crystals catch it in sharp, brief flashes, like a heartbeat. You follow the flickering pulses deeper into the corridor. The passage is narrow but gentle, curving slowly as though carved by water the color of air. The hum of the plateau deepens here, faint but steady. The walls almost seem to inhale as you pass. And then the corridor widens. A chamber opens before you, circular, perfectly level, encircled by crystalline pillars half buried in the ground. You step into it. Instantly the light changes, not brighter, but softer, warmer. The pillars hum faintly, each tone slightly different, forming a quiet harmony that seems to settle across your shoulders and chest like a blanket. In the center of the chamber lies a large slab of quartz, flat, translucent, and glowing faintly from within. You approach it slowly. The quartz slab is warm to the touch, radiating a gentle heat that has nothing to do with sunlight. Thin fractures run through it like rivers, glowing pale blue, pulsing softly in time with the air around you. You kneel and place your palm at the center. The entire slab responds. A pulse rises, slow, steady, and impossibly deep. Your chest answers without hesitation. The world dims slightly around the edges as your breath falls into rhythm with the stone. The hum of the pillars intensifies, harmonizing with the slab, creating a structure of sound so soft and so complete that it feels like the chamber is breathing with you. Your vision shifts. Not a dream, not a hallucination, a memory. You see hands, human hands, weathered, strong, steady, pressing against this same slab. A figure kneels where you kneel now, not worshipping, listening. Their breath falls into the same rhythm you feel now, slow, deep, open. The stone glows brighter beneath their palms. The chamber hums with a quiet, shimmering tension. Then light appears, not a burst, not a flash, a rising, a slow unveiling from deep within the quartz, the glow swelling upward like a second heartbeat, until the slab becomes a pool of soft, liquid blue. The figure leans closer, and the stone answers. The memory fades gently. You lift your hand, the slab dims, the hum settles, the chamber breathes quietly once more. You step back. The passage behind you is darker now, washed in early evening blue. The last streaks of sunlight barely reach the entrance, but ahead, on the far side of the chamber, you notice something faint, a soft glimmer, almost hidden behind a cluster of crystal pillars. You walk toward it. The glimmer grows brighter with every step, as though reacting to your approach. A narrow fissure opens between the pillars, tall enough to walk through, not wide enough to feel welcoming. Beyond it, a second chamber waits, smaller, darker, quieter. Your footsteps echo softly on the stone. The air here feels cooler, thicker, more ancient. You notice a cluster of smaller stones arranged in a circle on the floor, each one containing a crystal core. Some glow softly, some are dark, some pulse faintly like sleeping embers, and at the very center stands a single upright shard of quartz, thin, tall, razor smooth, glowing brightly even without light. You approach it slowly. The glow intensifies. You lift your hand. The shard brightens further, as though expecting your touch. You press your palm against it. Warmth floods your arm instantly. Not heat, but light. It pours gently into your skin, flows through your wrist, your forearm, your ribs, your breath, and then, you hear it, a voice. Not human, not language, just a tone, a clear sustained note rising within your chest, echoing in your bones, expanding behind your heart. The chamber responds. The circle of stones begins to glow, one after another. Each ignites with soft blue light until the entire floor pulses rhythmically. The shard brightens to white, and then, a memory breaks open inside you. A mountain, a night sky filled with living stars, a small group of people gathered around this very shard, their hands touching it, their breaths deep and steady, their eyes closed. The shard glows brighter, their chests glow in response. The light rises from the quartz, entering them, moving through them, collecting something, breath, voice, memory, then returning gently into the crystal, not taking, not consuming, sharing. The shard was a vessel, a keeper of breath, a reservoir of quiet. The memory dissolves. You pull your hand away. The shard dims slowly, like a candle settling into its own flame. The circle of stones fades. The chamber's hum softens. The air grows still. You step back, breath unsteady. Light remains inside the shard, not bright, not pulsing, but quietly alive. You turn toward the exit. The passage looks darker now, except for the faint shimmer at its end. You walk through the chambers in reverse, past the pillars, past the glowing quartz slab, back through the narrow corridor, toward the basin. The sky outside has deepened to indigo. Stars flicker along the horizon, as though echoing the crystal pulses beneath your feet. The basin glows faintly, its veins of light dim but still warm. You walk to the boulder one last time. It pulses when your shadow reaches it, a faint, grateful shimmer. You place your hand on the stone. The warmth rises instantly, soft, rich, steady. The glow strengthens, and from deep within the boulder, from the crystal core itself, a final message travels gently into your palm. Light hides only where it feels safe. The glow fades. The warmth softens. The plateau falls into its deep, ancient quiet. You step back as night settles around you, soft, starlit, peaceful, and the light that hid inside stone returns to its patient, shimmering rest, keeping its quiet heart alive for whoever listens next. The ridge that sang before rain. The mountains of Myanmar do not reveal themselves all at once. They rise slowly, not as sudden cliffs, but as long, breathing slopes covered in mist and drifting cloud, their true shapes hidden beneath layers of pale white that move like slow, thoughtful tides. You walk along a narrow trail carved into the side of a ridge. The air is cool, wrapped in the faint sweetness of distant rain. The sky above you is the color of muted silver, bright enough to make the mist glow softly from within. Every few steps, droplets cling to your eyelashes. The scent of wet bamboo hangs in the air. Wind moves gently through the trees, carrying the quiet murmur of leaves brushing against one another. Somewhere beyond the next bend lies the place villagers speak of in hushed tones, the ridge that sang before rain. They say that long before storms ever touched the mountains, this stone would hum. A low, resonant tone that rolled along the ridgeline like a warning the clouds themselves obeyed. You step deeper into the mist. The forest thins. The land rises gently. The wind cools further. Your footsteps soften as moss thickens beneath your boots. The ridge ahead fades in and out of view, first visible, then gone, then visible again, shifting the way dreams shift when you try to hold their shape. Then something unusual happens. The air begins to vibrate, not strongly, not enough to startle, just a faint, low trembling you feel behind your ribs. You pause. The mist thickens. A single tone drifts through the air, so quiet you aren't sure at first if it's real. A hum, long, low, steady. You take another step. The hum strengthens. Another step, stronger still. The path curves left, and the stone appears. It rises from the ridge like an ancient tooth of the mountain, tall, narrow, almost sharpened by centuries of wind. Its surface is smooth in some areas, ridged in others, streaked with pale green moss where the mist has kissed it for generations. And the stone is humming. You stand still, breath held. The sound vibrates through the air, rolling across the ridge in a soft wave. It is deeper than wind, warmer than thunder, gentler than the tremor of distant rain. You step closer. The hum deepens. The stone responds to your movement. The air around it grows warmer, and the mist coils near its base like a living thing. You approach slowly, drawn without hesitation. When you reach the stone, you place your palm gently against its surface, warm. Not from sunlight, there is none. Not from friction, not from air. Warm from inside. The hum rises through your hand, into your arm, into your chest, until your breath falls naturally into its rhythm. Inhale. Hum rises. Exhale. Hum softens. You close your eyes. A sensation unfolds inside the stone. Not a memory, not a vision, but a feeling. Rain, still far away, still hidden in clouds beyond the horizon, moving slowly toward the ridge. The stone feels it, responds to it, sings for it. You open your eyes slowly. The hum fades back to its earlier softness. The stone remains warm beneath your palm. A single drop of water lands on your wrist. Cold, clear, sudden. Rain? No. You look up. Mist condenses on the stone's highest point, gathering into droplets that fall gently whenever the hum deepens. The stone makes the air vibrate just enough to coax droplets into forming faster. A rhythm. A conversation. You walk around the stone. Its other side is smoother, washed clean by years of wind and weather. Thin grooves run vertically along it, like the faint marks left by streams of water that once traced its surface. You touch one. It is warm. You touch another, also warm. You slide your palm along the grooves. A vibration moves beneath your fingers. Tiny pulses, steady, like the heartbeat of something quiet and patient. The wind shifts. A breeze brushes past your ear, and you hear it. A second hum. Higher in pitch, quieter, almost hidden. You turn. The sound is coming from the ridge itself. A series of smaller stones, half buried beneath moss and earth, hum faintly whenever wind crosses them at just the right angle. You step toward them. The hum grows into a soft melody, uneven, natural, but unmistakably connected to the large stone behind you. You kneel beside a smaller stone and place your hand on it. It is cool, very cool, but beneath that coolness, something moves. A vibration. So faint you might miss it if your breath were any louder. You close your eyes. A small pulse rises beneath your fingertips. Then another. The pulses fall into rhythm with the hum of the ridge stone. Together they form a pattern. A slow drifting pattern that seems to roll through the earth like thunder, carried through soil instead of air. You stand quietly, feeling the hum through your boots. The larger stone hums again, louder this time. The smaller stones answer, each with a quiet, trembling tone that blends into the mist. A network, a choir, a ridge that sings together. The wind picks up. Mist swells across the frame of the mountain, gathering in soft white waves that curl around your ankles. Another droplet lands on your hand, then another. Tiny droplets forming not from rain, but from mist struck by sound. The stone sings. The mist hears. Water appears. You breathe deeply. The stone warms further. You step closer again and place both hands on its surface. The hum rises, and rises, and rises. The air around you vibrates. The mist swirls. The smaller stones tremble. The ground quivers with a soft resonance. The ridge sings a low, steady note. Then another. Then a third. Higher, softer, barely audible, except through your fingertips. The vibrations merge. They become something deeper. Not a hum, not a note, but a breath. The stone is breathing. With the mountain, with the mist, with you. You close your eyes. Your breath follows the rhythm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The hum deepens beneath your palms, and from somewhere inside the stone, from a place far beneath the mountain, a sensation rises. Rain, not here, not yet, but but coming. You feel it move across the land, slow, steady, forming high above distant peaks, rolling gently toward the ridge like a tide of cold silver. The stone hums louder, the smaller stones answer again. Mist gathers more thickly around your legs, rising slowly until the world becomes soft and white. The stone presses a single thought into your hands, not in words, not in sound, just in warmth. The mountains of Myanmar do not reveal themselves all at once. They rise slowly, not as sudden cliffs, but as long, breathing slopes covered in mist and drifting cloud, their true shapes hidden beneath layers of pale white that move like slow, thoughtful tides. You walk along a narrow trail carved into the side of a ridge. The air is cool, wrapped in the faint sweetness of distant rain. The sky above you is the color of muted silver, bright enough to make the mist glow softly from within. Every few steps, droplets cling to your eyelashes. The scent of wet bamboo hangs in the air. Wind moves gently through the trees, carrying the quiet murmur of leaves brushing against one another. Somewhere beyond the next bend lies the place villagers speak of in hushed tones, the ridge that sang before rain. They say that long before storms ever touched the mountains, this stone would hum, a low, resonant tone that rolled along the ridgeline like a warning the clouds themselves obeyed. You step deeper into the mist. The forest thins. The land rises gently. The wind cools further. Your footsteps soften as moss thickens beneath your boots. The ridge ahead fades in and out of view, first visible, then gone, then visible again, shifting the way dreams shift when you try to hold their shape. Then something unusual happens. The air begins to vibrate, not strongly, not enough to startle, just a faint, low trembling you feel behind your ribs. You pause. The mist thickens. A single tone drifts through the air. So quiet you aren't sure at first if it's real. A hum, long, low, steady. You take another step. The hum strengthens. Another step, stronger still. The path curves left, and the stone appears. It rises from the ridge like an ancient tooth of the mountain. Tall, narrow, almost sharpened by centuries of wind. Its surface is smooth in some areas, ridged in others, streaked with pale green moss where the mist has kissed it for generations. And the stone is humming. You stand still, breath held. The sound vibrates through the air, rolling across the ridge in a soft wave. It is deeper than wind, warmer than thunder, gentler than the tremor of distant rain. You step closer. The hum deepens. The stone responds to your movement. The air around it grows warmer, and the mist coils near its base like a living thing. You approach slowly, drawn without hesitation. When you reach the stone, you place your palm gently against its surface. Warm, not from sunlight, there is none. Not from friction, not from air. Warm from inside. The hum rises through your hand, into your arm, into your chest, until your breath falls naturally into its rhythm. Inhale, hum rises. Exhale, hum softens. You close your eyes. A sensation unfolds inside the stone. Not a memory, not a vision, but a feeling. Rain, still far away, still hidden in clouds beyond the horizon, moving slowly toward the ridge. The stone feels it, responds to it, sings for it. You open your eyes slowly. The hum fades back to its earlier softness. The stone remains warm beneath your palm. A single drop of water lands on your wrist, cold, clear, sudden. Rain? No. You look up. Mist condenses on the stone's highest point, gathering into droplets that fall gently whenever the hum deepens. The stone makes the air vibrate just enough to coax droplets into forming faster. A rhythm, a conversation. You walk around the stone. Its other side is smoother, washed clean by years of wind and weather. Thin grooves run vertically along it, like the faint marks left by streams of water that once traced its surface. You touch one. It is warm. You touch another, also warm. You slide your palm along the grooves. A vibration moves beneath your fingers. Tiny pulses, steady, like the heartbeat of something quiet and patient. The wind shifts. A breeze brushes past your ear, and you hear it. A second hum, higher in pitch, quieter, almost hidden. You turn. The sound is coming from the ridge itself. A series of smaller stones, half buried beneath moss and earth, hum faintly whenever wind crosses them at just the right angle. You step toward them. The hum grows into a soft melody, uneven, natural, but unmistakably connected to the large stone behind you. You kneel beside a smaller stone and place your hand on it. It is cool, very cool, but beneath that coolness, something moves, a vibration. So faint, you might miss it if your breath were any louder. You close your eyes. A small pulse rises beneath your fingertips, then another. The pulses fall into rhythm with the hum of the ridge stone. Together they form a pattern, a slow drifting pattern that seems to roll through the earth like thunder carried through soil instead of air. You stand quietly, feeling the hum through your boots. The larger stone hums again, louder this time. The smaller stones answer, each with a quiet, trembling tone that blends into the mist. A network, a choir, a ridge that sings together. The wind picks up. Mist swells across the frame of the mountain, gathering in soft white waves that curl around your ankles. Another droplet lands on your hand, then another. tiny droplets forming not from rain but from mist struck by sound. The stone sings, the mist hears, water appears. You breathe deeply. The stone warms further. You step closer again and place both hands on its surface. The hum rises and rises and rises. The air around you vibrates. The mist swirls. The smaller stones tremble. The ground quivers with a soft resonance. The ridge sings a low, steady note, then another, then a third, higher, softer, barely audible except through your fingertips. The vibrations merge. They become something deeper. Not a hum, not a note, but a breath. The stone is breathing. With the mountain, with the mist, with you. You close your eyes. Your breath follows the rhythm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The hum deepens beneath your palms. And from somewhere inside the stone, from a place far beneath the mountain, a sensation rises. Rain. Not here, not yet, but coming. You feel it move across the land. Slow, steady, forming high above distant peaks, rolling gently toward the ridge like a tide of cold silver. The stone hums louder. The smaller stones answer again. Mist gathers more thickly around your legs, rising slowly until the world becomes soft and white. The stone presses a single thought into your hands. Not in words, not in sound, just in warmth. Thank you for wandering these forgotten paths with me tonight. If these stones and winds whispered something to you, please like, subscribe, and tell us where and what time you're watching from. Your presence keeps these quiet places alive in the dark. Until we meet again, may the old echoes guide your sleep.